an operation designed to solve a problem, but instead, it lit the fuse on an absolute firestorm. And I mean, the escalation was just brutally fast. On February 28th, a joint U.S.-Israeli campaign hits Iran. And this was no warning shot. We're talking minutes later, Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, and dozens of other top officials are dead. By the very next day, Iran's retaliation started. And within a single week, the entire Gulf was plunged into what everyone is now calling the Third Gulf War. But the crazy thing is, this wasn't some bolt from the blue. Leaders in the region, they saw the storm clouds gathering. Just a month before the strikes, you had Egypt's President Sisi warning about very serious repercussions. So the diplomatic efforts were there, happening behind the scenes, but they just weren't enough to stop this slide into war. So you got to understand the thinking behind this attack. The logic was, well, it was brutally simple, a decapitation strike. The idea was to take out Iran's entire command structure and cripple its most dangerous weapons programs all in one go. But that plan seems to have catastrophically underestimated the response. And that response, wow, it has totally redefined modern warfare. This isn't what you might think of as a conventional war with, tank divisions and clear front lines. No, this is something different. It's new, and it's deeply asymmetric. To really get what Iran's doing, you have to wrap your head around this one term, asymmetric warfare. It's basically when a weaker power doesn't even try to match its opponent's strengths. Instead, they exploit their weaknesses, usually in really unconventional ways. And this right here, this is the absolute core of that strategy. An Iranian drone costs next to nothing to build. The high-tech interceptor missile you need to shoot it down, that can cost up to $3 million a piece. This insane cost difference isn't an accident. It's the central feature of Iran's entire military thinking. So this flips the whole idea of a war of attrition on its head. Instead of trying to wear down an army of soldiers, Iran's strategy of what's being called engineered attrition is designed to wear down budgets and arsenals. See, they don't need every drone to hit its target. They just need their enemies to keep firing those million-dollar missiles over and over and over. And the end game here? It's terrifyingly simple. Just overwhelm the most sophisticated air defense systems on the planet with sheer numbers. The goal is to create a munitions gap, a point where the defenders are using up their interceptors way faster than they can be replaced. And the ultimate fear is a saturation collapse. That moment the defensive shield just breaks because it literally runs out of ammo. And while all of this is happening in the skies, a whole other war is raging in the digital realm. Pro-Iranian hacking groups launched a massive cyber offensive, hitting the core infrastructure of the Gulf nations. We're not just talking military sites, but banks, government services, even ports. The battlefield is, well, it's everywhere. Now, an attack like this on two fronts, it's not going to stay in the region. And it didn't. It sent an immediate and devastating shockwave through the entire global economy. It all comes down to one tiny choke point, the Strait of Hormuz. With that waterway effectively shut down for business, the world's energy supply chain was basically broken. And all of a sudden, these Gulf nations, which were once seen as these global financial safe havens, were now viewed as active war zones. It exposed just how incredibly vulnerable our energy-dependent world really is. And the panic? Oh, it was immediate. Just look at this number. On March 2nd, Qatar's stock market dropped over 4% in a single day. That's not just a number on a screen. That's the sound of global investor confidence completely evaporating overnight. And it wasn't just Qatar. This financial virus spread across the whole region. Dubai's market had its worst day in years. Abu Dhabi actually had to shut down trading to stop the bleeding. Even the huge Saudi market, which was a bit more resilient, still felt that initial shock. The economic shield was definitely cracking. In any chaos, there are always winners and losers, right? And this was no different on the global stage. Energy giants like ExxonMobil and big defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, their stocks went through the roof. Meanwhile, industries that get crushed by high fuel prices and travel fears, like the airlines, saw their values just plummet. And this quote from some cybersecurity analysts, man, it just hits the nail on the head. The economic chaos isn't just a side effect of the war, it's a weapon. It's all part of that same asymmetric strategy. If you can't win on the battlefield, maybe you can win by creating so much fear and uncertainty that the engine of global investment just grinds to a halt. So, all of this, the military escalation, the new tactics, the global economic chaos, it all leads to the one question that's on everybody's mind, the most dangerous question of all. Is this it? Is this the beginning of World War III? The arguments for it are, well, they're pretty chilling when you lay them out. Analysts are pointing to multiple connected crises all happening at once, not just in the Middle East, but in Europe too. They see this growing alignment between autocratic powers, and most importantly, this isn't a proxy war anymore. This is direct, state-on-state confrontation, which feels eerily similar to how a bunch of regional fights in the 1930s eventually snowballed into a single global catastrophe. But okay, there are some really strong counterarguments here. Unlike World War I, you don't have these rigid formal alliance systems that automatically drag everyone into the fight. The other big powers, Russia and China, they've got their own huge problems to deal with. And looming over everything is the threat of nuclear weapons, a terrifying but incredibly powerful deterrent that just didn't exist in the 1930s. So look, whether you call it World War III or just the Third Gulf War, it almost doesn't matter what label we use, because one thing is absolutely certain. The world we knew is gone. We have entered a fundamentally new and much more unstable era. So what do we do? Well, experts argue there's a desperate three-part plan to pull back from the brink. First, a massive industrial mobilization to close that munitions gap we talked about. Second, a huge international effort to make the seas safe again. And third, integrating all the region's different air defense systems into a single unified shield that can actually work together. But you see the problem, right? Those are huge long-term challenges. And that leaves us with this one final, really unsettling question that historians and analysts are asking as they watch all this unfold. History shows us that the great conflicts don't start with some big global declaration. They begin with a cascade of regional crises that just spin out of control. So, has World War III already begun and we just haven't had the perspective to notice it yet?